One thing that comes a lot these days is ADCs and radiotherapeutics. Novartis, I think, got a big approval for radiotherapeutics recently. What did you see there?
So it's complex. So that's why we love it. Because when you try to help companies, or when it's complex, of course, I think we can play a role. So we are experts, or we've really worked a lot in both radiopharmaceuticals and ADCs. And then I can add cell therapy, gene therapy, and all those kind of things. We love it because, again, it's difficult to bring to market. Every single of those innovation and modalities have their own issues. Cell therapy is probably still the scalability. Gene therapy is probably the commercial model, with the Pfizer and Blockbusters recent example. It's kind of scary. ADCs, to me, was talking to a former Mablink executive recently, talking about ADCs and so on. And indeed, I think a lot of generations, every generation really are progressing on the linkers, on the way to build those molecules. Still, in the end, it's the traditional approach. You need to not only have a fantastic molecule, you need to demonstrate that into the clinic. And I think that's what we're waiting for in the lab for the latest generations of ADCs. Radiopharmaceuticals, honestly, it's so complex on a supply chain standpoint. We have our people here who are just experts of that. It's understanding on a geographic standpoint, how does that work, and the capacities, and then you still have all the medical things, right? The segmentations of patients, the traditional things are still there, but you also have the supply. This seems to work. That's why also you see a lot of companies specializing in that. So you need to invest a lot of time to really understand the ecosystem and the process and the supply chain to be able to be competitive in the space.
One thing that I found quite interesting is both actually ADCs and radiotherapeutics is that you have big pharmas leading the way versus some other indication, or some where, let's say, cell therapy, with the exception of Novartis, was more like biotechs.
Yeah.
Going into taking more of the risk, taking also some of the setbacks.
Yeah.
And then big pharma coming in later on, versus I feel like with therapeutics and ADCs, from big pharma a bit more.
I guess it's true. Probably because we are at a different phase as well. In the sense that, I don't know, when I started in biotech 20 years ago, we already were talking about ADCs. We already were talking about radiopharmaceuticals. But I think, we just learned. And I think the generations of products became better. And also, I think why it fits with big pharma is because they have this threshold under which, in terms of revenues, under which is not interesting. And I think with ADCs and with some radiopharmaceuticals, it can go above that. More challenging for cell therapy, at least, especially if it's autologous. I think it's really a challenge. So I think there's a question just of scale as well. The big pharma is still looking for the blockbuster model.